Hi everyone, my name is Priscilla. I'm the Brand Partnerships Manager here at Planoly. And for our IG Live session today, we're going to be talking a little bit about how you can use stats based from Instagram Insights and also the Planoly Analytics tab to create better content and how to look at different cues and prepare yourself for success. So one thing that the best way to get started essentially is by looking at Instagram Insights. Insights is going to give you a lot of details. If you're a business or as an influencer profile, if you have the feature available, it's going to give you a lot of details of where you're at, how many followers you've grown from a weekly basis, your likes and comments, your total engagement rate, even the times that your market is most active, what's the best time for you to post, what your gender analytics are based on demographics, where your audience is at, where your market is most dominant at. So looking at those analytics and basically tailoring the content based on those stats. So on Insights, you'll see your numbers on a weekly basis, and the more, over time, those numbers end up changing. So I think it's a big, important thing to keep track of those numbers, because Instagram isn't going to keep track of those for you. They're just going to be telling you what the numbers are on a weekly basis. So I think it's everybody's responsibility as a content creator and as a digital marketer to keep track of those numbers in, a key performance indicator sheet called a KPI sheet, because that way you can keep track of your history and your numbers based on what they were, a month ago, a year ago, but you're also able to predict your numbers for the future. So, if your business is relying on a certain number for you to hit on 6 months from now, a year from now, you can use, based on the history that you've built on those key performance indicators from the past, to project for what your numbers will be in the future. So based on your average from a year ago, you'll be able to see, okay, like on a monthly basis, I'm growing 100, 200 followers a month. But it's also important to keep in mind that you shouldn't be complacent with just the numbers that you've dealt with previously. You always want to make sure that you're not only meeting the numbers from before, but also seeing how you can go beyond it. So creating content that is not just, sticking to what your audience knows, but, reaching beyond your audience and seeing how, okay, you're constantly creating content, but how can you integrate partnerships to meet a certain number that goes like 10% over what you originally projected? Just a number that I'm throwing out, but seeing how you can constantly keep growing, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all in it for, just to keep growing. And it's one thing when your personal profile and numbers don't really mean much to you, but when it's like a business, numbers do matter. So it's very, very important that you're keeping a key performance indicator sheet, so that way you can project, see what you were at before and project what you're going to be at in the future. So keep in mind that another thing that you can do with, that Instagram Insights is really helpful with, is to see what time it is the best time for you to post, based on your audience and based on your previous posts that you've had, the success of your previous posts. A lot of people constantly ask us what is the best time to post, and there's no right answer because everybody's audiences are different. So what might work for Planoly might not work for you, because we have different audiences and certain people are awake at certain times. You have to keep in mind that Instagram's, like, all users on Instagram are worldwide. So you might have a bigger audience on the East Coast versus, on the West Coast, where their time is different, and it might work differently for them. We're based in Central Time, so our success metric might be different from somebody in Japan. So you have to keep that in mind. And it always depends on when your audience is most active. Keep in mind that Instagram does give you that analytics, so always look at that, but also do A/B testing to see, okay, Instagram hasn't told, we've never posted at 8 p.m. on Fridays. Maybe it'll work. Let's try that out. And if it doesn't work, okay, let's throw it away. Always try new things to, don't always get in your comfort zone. It could be that something that you haven't tried could be really successful for you. So go ahead and try it and keep track of it. Keep track of your failures and successes. Always celebrate your successes, but don't sweep the failures under the rug. Pay attention to them and see why something didn't work. Always ask yourself why. There's what was like versus what was done last week that we didn't perform great numbers, and why did we perform really great this week. Always dig for answers, and see why certain things happened. It could have been an interview that you guys posted last week, or it could have been like a really beautiful photo outdoors, like a scenic photo. See what works for you. And, Instagram gives you a lot of those details, but we also give you that on the Planoly Analytics tab, and we'll tell you what were your best performing posts, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, any time period that you guys want to check. We give you that on the Planoly app. So it's very, very great to use those two hand in hand to see, okay, Instagram is giving you these analytics based on this week, but how can you compare those analytics to something that, you did 2 months ago or a year ago, or last week. Keep track of those numbers constantly. That's how you can really, really understand those statistics and tailor content to them. That's kind of like the gist of everything. So back to talking about KPI sheets. It's kind of the way that I've done it previously, and we'll give you a little bit more details on the blog of how you can build a great KPI sheet, but it's basically just a spreadsheet that you can build on Google spreadsheets or Excel. And you just want to keep track of your numbers based on like your history and future projections. So it comes down to your following, your reach, and Instagram Insights also gives you that based on like their total reach, and also impressions, because they'll tell you which are the two, and reach being your total amount of followers, and then your impressions is how many people have seen your post that are not just your followers. So that includes everybody who's seen your post. That doesn't even include your followers. You also want to go for your engagement. That goes for your comments and likes. And also, I believe that Instagram Insights tells you shares. So if you're able to have that data, go for it, write it down, keep track of all of it. Also, your website referrals. I think an important thing to keep mind of is to see which of your social networks is the most successful. So create unique links for each of your platforms to see which one is referring more traffic back to your site. So if you're sending out a link to an interview, make sure that interview has a specific redirect link from Instagram, for Twitter, to Facebook, wherever, so that way you could see which of your platforms is sending the most traffic. And once you see your more successful one, okay, great, that Instagram is sending the most traffic, but how can you get your other platforms to send more traffic too? And always keeping in mind of like the successes and failures, and seeing how you can tailor everything to create better content for every platform. Also goes for the number of weekly posts. Did you post 5 posts last week versus 10 this week? Keeping track of that, and seeing how that affected your numbers. And also goes for Instagram, the number of stories that you've put. I think Instagram is very, very, is trying to get a lot of people to use stories live, even the poll feature, using videos. How many of those features have you used on a weekly basis? We do Instagram Instagram Live every week. So, the more people that watch our live, the more that they'll see our content to the top. So seeing how that affects your engagement. and keeping track of that. Really diving into those numbers. How many viewers were on your live, and seeing how you can get more viewers for your next live. Is it going to take some pre-marketing and letting people know that you're going to be live at a certain hour, or just going on a whim and just, like a lot of celebrities do this, where they just go on live and they'll go on rants and everybody starts talking about it, and all of a sudden there's a million people watching their live. So doing some guerrilla marketing like that, whatever. And seeing when your audience was the most active and creating patterns to see, okay, this month they were really active at this time, and this other month they were really active at this time, what was going on, and trying to really dive into those numbers and creating patterns and seeing why. Like, always ask yourself why. You could see like, oh great, that was a really great number, but why? And try to replicate. If something was successful, try to replicate it, but always ask yourself why. So a few other things that you can see on the Planoly analytics tool is a total likes and comments received. And like I had mentioned earlier, you can actually track back to previous time periods to see what your top photos that got a lot of likes and what photos got a lot of engagement and or got a lot of comments. So seeing those and, comparing it, if your numbers have grown within a year or they've stayed stagnant, what do you need to change? We'll tell you that. Also your top posts and what engagement you got from them. So like I mentioned earlier, based on your top posts, try to recreate the same successes, and see how you can go above it. I think it's never okay to stay complacent. So always see how you can go above and beyond the numbers that you've previously hit, and see which photos perform better. Is it because you wrote a really engaging caption, or was it because every time you post a picture of yourself, it performs really well? If you know what works for you, keep at it, but always keep adding other stuff in the mix to see there's always some photo that you probably haven't thought of that's probably going to outperform all the others. So see what works for you always. So keep that in mind. And also, like I mentioned, keep track of the low performing posts. I think constantly people throw them under the rug and being like, well, that didn't work. But I'm saying this like the millionth time, ask yourself why, and why didn't that post perform well, and how can you make it better? Take notes of that, because it's those low posts that bring down your average. So if you see that something is not going to perform well, you already know on the top of mind, like, those photos don't perform well. And if you post something similar to that in the future, it's going to bring down your average. So make sure that you're always posting the best content possible. I think the main thing here is quality, not quantity. So don't just post anything that's going to bring down your numbers. Always make sure to go up and up and up and up. And another thing too that I think a lot of people forget, aside from just the Instagram insights and the analytics tool on Planoly, is that you can actually engage a little bit more with your audience and use the poll feature that's on stories to ask your audience what they want to see. I can't tell you how many times I've clicked on those polls, because it's such an easy A or B question. I always love figuring out whether I'm on the lower percentile or the top percentile range, and seeing where I'm panning out on average based on those polls. So make sure that you're always using them. People love being a part of those polls. It literally takes no effort, because all you have to do is just tap on the screen to give an answer. So make sure that you're always using it to your advantage. It's there for you to connect a little bit better with your audience and see where, how you can be creating better content, whether it makes them feel like they have a voice on the content that you're creating. So let them feel, connected with you based on those polls. So that way they feel like, they're being part of the content creation process. So, So yeah, so with that said, we'll wrap up this week's IG live session. But if you guys have any questions, make sure to check out the Planoly blog. We have tons more details on how you can be creating better content based on stats. And if you have any other questions, feel free to DM us. We're always DM away on @Planoly on Instagram. And with that said, we'll chat next week at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right, thanks guys. Bye.